Do you ever feel like you are going crazy because they are acting completely normal after something that deeply affected you? They come back with a casual message. They ask how your day was. They make a joke. They act warm enough to make the room feel normal again. But your body is still holding what happened. Your chest still remembers the coldness. Your stomach still remembers the silence. Your mind still remembers the words, the withdrawal, the dismissal, the way the conversation ended, the way you were left alone with the emotional mess. And now, the pain has doubled. First, there was the hurt. Then, there is the pretending the hurt does not exist. That is why this pattern is so destabilizing for anxious attachment. It is not only that something painful happened, it is that the other person returns to normal before your body has had any proof that the rupture was seen, understood, or repaired. They act normal, and suddenly you feel crazy for not being able to act normal too. You start wondering, am I dramatic? Am I holding on too long? Am I ruining the peace? Should I just be grateful that they are talking again? Should I drop it because they seem fine? But something inside you does not feel fine. Something inside you knows that the room has been reset without the truth being touched. This is the reset trap. The other person acts like the emotional temperature is safe again, and you are expected to step into that normal tone, as if your nervous system did not just spend hours or days trying to survive the uncertainty. The brutal truth is this. When someone acts like nothing happened, the anxious person is not only reacting to the original hurt, they are reacting to the erasure of the hurt. That is the real wound. Not just what happened, but the way the other person tries to move forward as if your pain is an inconvenience to the new mood. If this kind of clarity helps your nervous system settle, subscribe. PsychBond is a daily decoder for psychology, relationships, and avoidant and anxious attachment patterns, so you stop guessing. Now, let us go into why this hurts so much. Anxious attachment needs emotional continuity. It needs the story to make sense. If there is a rupture, the anxious body cannot simply jump to normal without a bridge. It needs some kind of acknowledgement. It needs, I know that hurt. It needs, I understand why you are not okay yet. It needs, we can talk about what happened. It does not always need a perfect apology, but it needs reality to be shared. Without that, the anxious nervous system feels trapped between two incompatible worlds. One world says, something happened. The other person's behavior says, nothing happened. That gap is what makes you spiral. It is not weakness. It is not drama. It is your body trying to solve a reality split. They are acting like the relationship is safe again, but your body has no evidence that safety has been restored. And when the body does not trust the reset, it starts searching. Did I imagine the hurt? Did I make it too big? Are they pretending because they do not care? Are they pretending because they are ashamed? Are they testing whether I will bring it up? If I mention it, will they leave again? If I do not mention it, will I abandon myself? This is the mental storm that starts when someone acts normal too soon. To the outside, it may look like you cannot let things go. Inside, it feels like you are trying to protect your reality from being erased. That is why a casual message can trigger so much. They may say, "Good morning." Your body hears, "We are not going to talk about what happened." They may say, "How was your day?" Your body hears, "Please step over the wound so I do not have to look at it." They may send a meme, a joke, a normal update, a soft voice note, and part of you may feel relieved because contact is back. but another part of you feels frozen because the contact came without repair. That split is painful. Relief says, they are here. Fear says, but the wound is still open. Hope says, maybe this is their way of reconnecting. Self-respect says, but reconnecting is not the same as repairing. This is the exact place where anxious attachment gets pulled into the control loop. The other person resets the room. You feel erased. You try to get acknowledgement. They feel pressured. They minimize, avoid, or act confused. You escalate because your reality feels denied. Then they treat your reaction as the real problem. Suddenly, the conversation is no longer about what happened, it becomes about your tone, your timing, your intensity, your inability to let things go. This is how the loop protects the avoidant or emotionally unavailable person from the original issue. The more you react to the erasure, the easier it becomes for them to focus on your reaction instead of the rupture. And then you walk away feeling even more unstable. Not because you are unstable, but because you were pulled into a reality where the wound disappeared and your response became the evidence against you. This is why the reset trap is so powerful. It makes the anxious person choose between two painful options. If you accept the reset, you get temporary peace, but you abandon the part of you that still needs the truth. If you challenge the reset, you risk being called dramatic, heavy, needy, sensitive, or difficult. So your nervous system starts negotiating. Maybe I should wait. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe I should enjoy that they are being nice. Maybe if I bring it up, I will ruin everything. Maybe if I stay calm long enough, they will eventually talk about it. But later often becomes never, because once the normal mood returns, bringing up the hurt starts to feel like you are disturbing the peace. That is the trap. Their normal tone becomes the new law. The emotional room has been reset, and now your pain feels out of place inside it. But your pain is not out of place. Your pain is information. Your body is saying, something happened here, and we have not made sense of it yet. This is where we need to understand the avoidant side without excusing it. For someone with avoidant patterns, acting normal can feel like safety. Repair may feel like walking back into the fire. Acknowledging the hurt means acknowledging impact. Acknowledging impact means they may have to feel guilt, shame, responsibility, or the fear that they are the bad person. So normalcy becomes a way to lower the emotional temperature. They may not consciously think, I'm going to erase this. Their body may think, if I act calm, maybe the relationship can become calm again. They use normal behavior like a reset button, a casual tone, a practical question, a joke, a return to routine, a small act of warmth. These things can be their way of saying, please let the room be safe again, without making me go through the hard part. But the hard part is where repair lives. That is the problem. Normalcy can lower their shame, but it does not automatically heal your wound. It may help them feel less trapped, but it may make you feel abandoned inside the truth. To them, acting normal may feel like, I am trying to reconnect. To you, it may feel like, you are asking me to pretend I was not hurt. Both people can experience the same moment completely differently. That is why this dynamic becomes so confusing. The avoidant person may feel punished when you refuse to reset. The anxious person may feel erased when they are expected to reset. The avoidant thinks, why are we dragging this back up? The anxious person thinks, how can we move forward if we never named what happened? The avoidant thinks, I'm trying to make things okay. The anxious person thinks, you are trying to make things comfortable without making them honest. This is the core conflict. One person tries to restore comfort. The other needs reality. Comfort without reality feels fake to the anxious nervous system. Reality without comfort feels threatening to the avoidant nervous system. And if both people stay unconscious, the loop keeps repeating. They act normal. You feel crazy. You push. They defend. You explain more. They withdraw more. Then both people feel misunderstood. There is also a hidden reason this hurts so much. Acting normal can make you feel like the other person has more power over reality than you do. If they are calm, you start doubting your alarm. If they are casual, you start doubting your memory. If they are warm, you start doubting your boundary. Their mood starts becoming the evidence, and your body starts becoming the problem. That is a dangerous place for an anxious person, because anxious attachment already has a habit of self-questioning. It already asks, am I asking too much? Am I seeing this clearly? Am I making this worse? So when the other person comes back with a normal tone, it can slide right into that old self-doubt. You may begin to treat their calm as proof that your hurt is unreasonable. But calm is not always truth. Sometimes calm is avoidance with a steady voice. Sometimes calm is someone moving around the pain instead of moving through it. Sometimes calm is just the person with less emotional consequence deciding the subject is over before the person who was hurt has even been heard. That is why you cannot measure repair by how normal the room feels. You measure repair by whether reality is allowed into the room at all. But here is the part that matters. Acting normal after a rupture is not repair. It can be a beginning, but it is not repair. A soft tone is not repair. A joke is not repair. A good morning text is not repair. Physical affection is not repair. Returning to routine is not repair. Repair requires some contact with the truth. It requires the relationship to admit that something happened. It requires enough emotional courage to say, there was an impact here. Without that, the relationship is not healed. It is only quiet. And quiet can be dangerous when it is built on avoidance. This is why anxious people often explode after trying to stay calm. They are not exploding from one small message. They are exploding from days or weeks of swallowed reality. They are exploding because the normal tone keeps stepping over the same wound. They are exploding because they feel forced to either play along or become the person who ruins the mood. The body eventually refuses. It says, if nobody is going to name this, I will make the pain loud enough that it cannot be ignored. That does not mean explosion is healthy. It means explosion often has a history. It comes from the pressure of being expected to act okay before okay has been rebuilt. This is also why you may feel ashamed after reacting. You may think, I should have said it better. I should have stayed calm. I should not have sent that long message. I should not have sounded so desperate. And maybe the delivery could have been cleaner. But do not use imperfect delivery to erase the truth underneath it. The truth is that something in you was trying to be acknowledged. Something in you was tired of being asked to perform peace. Something in you knew that normal was being used as a cover for unfinished hurt. That is not crazy. That is your nervous system asking for a bridge between rupture and closeness. Now we need to name the double wound clearly. The first wound is what happened. The second wound is being expected to act like it did not happen. The first wound may be the withdrawal, the coldness, the harsh words, the silence, the dismissal, the broken promise, the emotional disappearance. The second wound is when they return and act as if your body should have no memory. That second wound can hurt even more because it attacks your trust in your own perception. You start wondering why they seem so comfortable while you feel so unsettled. You start comparing their calm to your pain. You may think, maybe it did not mean as much to them. Maybe I care more. Maybe I am the only one carrying this. Maybe I am too sensitive. That is how emotional erasure becomes self-doubt. Their normal behavior becomes evidence that your hurt is excessive, even when your hurt makes complete sense. This is one of the most painful parts of anxious attachment. You do not only need repair, you need confirmation that your reality is real. You need to know that the hurt actually happened, that the impact mattered, that the other person sees the difference between peace and pretending. When that confirmation is missing, you may start fighting for your own reality. That is why your words can become repetitive. You explain the same point in 10 different ways because you are not only trying to be understood, you are trying to stop feeling erased. You may say, "That hurt me." They say, "I did not mean it that way." You say, "I know, but it still hurt." They say, "Why are we still talking about this?" You say, "Because it feels unresolved." They say, "I thought we were fine." And suddenly, you feel trapped in a conversation where their comfort keeps getting treated as proof that repair happened. But feeling fine is not proof that repair happened. It may only mean the person who caused the impact has moved away from their own discomfort. The person who was hurt may still be standing in the emotional aftermath. This is why "I thought we were fine" can be so triggering. It sounds innocent, but to the anxious body, it can feel like another erasure. Fine for who? Fine according to what? Fine because we repaired, or fine because I stopped bringing it up? Fine because we understood each other, or fine because your nervous system felt calmer once mine went quiet? These are not dramatic questions. They are the questions that determine whether the relationship can hold truth. The reset trap also gives the other person a kind of control over the timeline. If they decide the emotional room is normal again, you are pressured to follow. If you do not follow, you become the disruption. That is why acting normal can function as control, even when the person is not doing it with cruel intent. It controls the emotional temperature. It controls what can be discussed. It controls when the issue is allowed to exist. It controls whether your pain is welcomed into the room or treated like an unwanted guest. And because anxious attachment fears disconnection, you may cooperate with that control just to keep the bond from breaking. You may laugh at the joke while still feeling sick inside. You may answer the casual question while your body is screaming, "Are we really not going to talk about this?" You may soften your face, your tone, your needs, because the other person is finally warm again and you do not want to lose it. But every time you cooperate with a reset that has no repair, a small part of you learns that your pain has to wait outside the relationship. Over time, that becomes resentment. Not because you are bitter by nature, but because no one can keep abandoning their own truth without something inside them starting to ache. That ache may come out as irritability, suspicion, shutdown, long messages, or sudden anger. And then the other person says, "Where's this coming from?" it is coming from everything that never got a place to land. It is coming from every time normal was used to skip repair. It is coming from every moment you felt forced to choose between honesty and closeness. And there is one more part people rarely name. Acting like nothing happened can feel seductive to the anxious person too. Because part of you wants the reset. Part of you is exhausted. Part of you is tired of waiting, tired of explaining, tired of feeling like the intense one. When they come back normal, part of your body may think, "Thank God, maybe we can be okay again. Maybe I do not have to fight for this. Maybe I can just relax into the warmth and stop carrying the pain." That makes sense. You are not wrong for wanting the relief. But relief becomes dangerous when it asks you to trade your reality for closeness. The reset offers a quick version of peace. No hard conversation, no risk of rejection, no chance of them saying you are too much. But that peace has a cost. You keep the bond by hiding the bruise. You keep the warmth by swallowing the truth. You keep the connection by becoming easier to be around than your pain actually feels. That is not healing. That is emotional editing. This is why the goal is not to become louder. It is to become harder to erase. Not harder in a cold way. Harder in the sense that your truth stays present even when the other person tries to move past it. You do not have to punish them for acting normal. You simply do not let their normal tone become permission to abandon what your body still knows. That is why this pattern is not small. Acting like nothing happened may look harmless, but inside an anxious avoidant dynamic, it can become a control loop that keeps both people stuck. The avoidant person uses normalcy to avoid shame. The anxious person accepts normalcy to avoid abandonment. Then the unresolved issue stays alive underneath the surface. Later, it returns in a different form. Maybe the next conflict is about texting. Maybe it is about tone. Maybe it is about a plan, a delay, a social media clue, a canceled date. But underneath, the old wound is still there because it was never metabolized. It was only covered. This is why the same fight keeps coming back wearing different clothes. The topic changes, but the loop is the same. Something hurts. They avoid the emotional weight. They reset the room. You feel erased. You push for reality. They feel pressured. You escalate. They retreat. Then the original hurt disappears behind the argument about your reaction. This is the control loop. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The key is not to explode, and it is not to swallow it. Both extremes keep the loop alive. If you explode, the other person may focus on your intensity and avoid the original wound. If you swallow it, the reset succeeds without repair, and your body stores the resentment. The exit is clean acknowledgement. Not a speech, not a trial, not a 10-paragraph message. One clear sentence that refuses both drama and self-abandonment. I can be calm, but I cannot pretend nothing happened. That sentence is powerful because it separates regulation from denial. It says, I am not here to attack you. I am not here to restart chaos. But I am also not going to perform normal while my body is still holding an unspoken impact. Another version is, I am willing to talk calmly, but I need us to acknowledge what happened before we move on. Another version is, I do want peace, but I do not want a reset that skips repair. These sentences break the loop because they do not chase, accuse, beg, or collapse. They make reality visible. And reality is the thing the reset trap tries to avoid. The most important part is what you do after the sentence. You cannot say it and then immediately panic because they do not respond perfectly. You cannot say it and then send 5 more messages explaining why you are allowed to say it. That turns the clean sentence back into anxious pursuit. Say it once, let it stand. Their response becomes information. If they can pause, listen, and show some willingness to acknowledge the impact, there may be capacity. If they mock it, dismiss it, minimize it, punish you, or act like your need for acknowledgement is the problem, that is also information. You did not fail. You saw the room clearly. This is where anxious attachment has to learn a painful but freeing truth. Your job is not to make someone understand your pain by bleeding louder. Your job is to state the truth clearly enough that you can see whether the relationship has room for it. If the only way to keep closeness is to deny the rupture, that closeness is not safety. If the only way to keep peace is to pretend your body forgot, that peace is not real. If the only way to be loved is to act normal after being hurt, you are being trained to abandon yourself in the name of connection. A healthy bond does not require instant perfection. People mess up. People shut down. People avoid. People get overwhelmed. But a healthy bond can come back to the truth. It can say, something happened here. It can make room for impact. It can repair without making the hurt person feel guilty for still hurting. That is the difference. Acting normal may create relief. Acknowledgement creates safety. Acting normal may calm the avoidant nervous system. Acknowledgement calms the relationship. Acting normal may avoid conflict for the moment. Acknowledgement prevents the wound from becoming a pattern. So when they act like nothing happened, do not immediately ask, how do I make them care? Ask, can this connection make room for reality? Can it hold the fact that something hurt you? Can it hold a calm sentence without turning you into the problem? Can it repair without requiring you to erase the emotional evidence? Can it move forward because something was understood, not because something was buried? That is the real test. You are not crazy because your body refuses a fake reset. You are not too much because you need the truth named. You are not ruining the peace by asking for acknowledgement. You are refusing a version of peace that depends on your silence. And that is not drama. That is self-respect. The first wound was what happened. The second wound was the pretending. Do not make the third wound your own self-abandonment. If this helped your body feel a little safer, liking this video helps it reach someone else who needs this clarity. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.